Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Happy to be with you again. This is the fourth and final in my four-part series. And today's class is called Fostering Communities of Healing and Discovery. And I want to focus on two key points this morning. The first has to do with experiential education, this idea of learning with more than the mind, of learning through the act of doing. And I also want to advocate for the mindset, or perhaps a revised mindset, of going for a B minus instead of an A plus. So I want to begin with a little storytelling about my own experiences with experiential learning. I am a person that has a different brain than at least the way my sister's brain worked and many of my friends. For me, going to public school was hard. It was edgy. In that I hated sitting still in a classroom, getting given a piece of paper and having to write the answers to things. It felt numb in me. I had a really hard time learning how to read and trying to sit quiet and still in a classroom and think about something and then put it on paper. It put me to sleep. It made me angry, and quite honestly, it disconnected me from the learning process. And I feel really grateful for several different things that woke up in me, several different experiences in my life that helped me learn that that it wasn't that I was stupid, it was that I was struggling with that learning style. And when I found the way to work with how I learn and how I grow, everything changed. So one of the first experiences was when I was so gratefully done with high school. I knew that, or at least I had been instilled that going to college was really important, and I wanted to go, or I thought I wanted to go, but I knew I didn't want to go right away. I was so grateful to be done with sitting in a classroom, and the thought of 4 more years of school, quite honestly, felt oppressive and scary to me. And I'm blessed to have these amazing parents who, advocated for me to have some voice in the way that I wanted to live. So when I was 18 years old, I took a year off between high school and college, and I went to Costa Rica for what I thought was going to be a 3-month volunteer program, and what turned out to be an 11-month journey backpacking on a shoestring through 11 countries through Mexico, Central, and South America. Good morning, everyone. It's so nice to see you. And so one of my primary intentions in that trip is I really wanted to learn to speak Spanish, and I had studied French in high school, and I didn't speak very much French. When I got to Latin America at 18 years old, with very little Spanish in my pocket, there was a real need and a desire to be able to communicate. And by putting myself in an immersive situation, putting myself in a place where learning a language had a purpose and a value and a meaning immediately, it was extraordinary how quickly I was able to drink in that language, and be able to learn quite quickly the basic conversational words in Spanish, and then eventually be able to hold my own. And that was huge, not just the excitement of getting to learn a language, but for me, who had struggled so much in school, to go, oh my gosh, when I'm doing something, when I'm doing it, I'm learning it so quickly, I am smart, right? Like, it was one of those first really big affirming moments. And then when I came back from my year of travel, I ended up choosing an undergraduate school called Prescott College, which is a tiny little liberal arts for the environment out in Prescott, Arizona. And Prescott has a couple different philosophies that I have taken into my heart and brought into my life that I am so grateful to. And Prescott College talks about, their logo is education is a journey, not a destination. And that was huge, this whole piece of like, what if I'm here to learn so that I can be a better human, rather just like gunning for my degree. I got through high school. I wanted to be able to graduate. But Prescott asked me, like, what do you want to learn and how do you want to do it? And one of the core differences in Prescott, well, 2 of the core differences in Prescott College was that their philosophy is all about experiential education. So there is a hands-on component to pretty much every class that they offer. And for me to be able to get to learn with my hands, to learn through the doing, it helped me realize how intelligent I am, and helped the parts of my brain that were struggling to catch on to some of the things that, my friends and sister had learned faster, opened once I had the confidence and the belief that, I can learn. But one of the other core things that Prescott did differently is that you could opt in to get grades, but unlike every other school I had ever been to, they didn't offer grades, they offered written evaluations. And for the most part, they didn't offer tests. Instead of having to complete a test with multiple choice answers or essay questions, to show that we had competence in what we'd learned, we were required to give presentations. And I can remember as a very shy, kind of scared 19-year-old starting college, being like, well, what do you mean? Like, I'm supposed to teach something I'm learning? Like, that's crazy. How would that possibly, how could I do that? And what I realized was that getting to the place of feeling competent to share information with my classmates forced me to learn it in a way that cramming for a test never did. Right? I couldn't just memorize facts. I had to be able to bring it into my own body and translate it out to the world. And that was one of the most powerful teachings I had ever received, of like, wow, teaching is actually one of my greatest teachings, right? That when I put myself in a place of sharing messages with the world, it helps me get more clear in myself. And that was really huge, and that showed up again when I went to Kripalu for my yoga teacher training. And this, they would offer a ton of philosophy, which, yes, fed my mind, but most of the philosophy, most of the teachings they offered while we were in poses with this inquiry of, how does this resonate in your body? Right? Does this feel true to you? Not this is what you should believe, but try this on while you're in an experience of embodiment and find out what's true for yourself. And instead, this was world-changing to me, because instead of just taking kind of these rote ideas that I thought I was supposed to know and supposed to do and be good enough for somebody else or accept somebody else's belief systems, it was an opportunity to take it in through me and make my own decisions about my life. And these were contributing factors of really that transformation in me that shifted from feeling, victim to life and that I have to show up and do what I'm told, to, oh, I am the creator of my own life. I am the creator of my destiny, and each little step I take, I have choice there. So experiential learning, and then I feel so blessed to have unexpectedly come home to my beloved profession now, partnering with Young Living Essential Oils. And it's another place where I feel like experiential learning has been so transformative. I got introduced to, these products that have these high frequencies, and if Tama, my sweetheart who introduced me, had just talked at me about them, I probably would have rolled my eyes. I really wasn't interested in this kind of, alternative strategies for wellness. But when I started to use them on my body and feel the impact of what it felt like to have support coming in from our dear plant neighbors, was life-changing. And so, one of the part of the mission statement that I spoke into the other week, and something that I come home to over and over and over again in my work as an entrepreneur, is this invitation from Young Living to foster communities of healing and discovery. Foster communities of healing and discovery. And I think that invitation to foster a community where we can discover, to me, is the entry place into true learning, into transformative education, right? When instead of just signing up for a class where I can be told everything, a new philosophy to accept or not accept, what is it to have someone hold space for me in my own learning and discovery process? And the idea of, and I believe that very process, coming together in community to learn new perspectives, to learn new things, is a healing endeavor. Is a healing endeavor, right? If we are stuck in a place of, if we feel stuck in any way, shape, or form, we are probably in a place where we haven't yet found a solution out of where we are, right? And so we need things that are outside of our current understandings, right, in order to go further. And so to be in community with other people on a similar path that have similar questions but different, and similar life experiences but different, it offers an opportunity to learn beyond what I already knew. So kind of piggybacking on last week's class, this invitation of, how do we cultivate community? For me, it was book groups were continue to be a huge part of that learning. But the other thing that I want to throw out there as my little final nugget in this class is the invitation to go for B-. What do I mean by that? I think that, or I know, I was raised with a more unconscious than conscious, I think, perspective that it's got to be A+ or nothing, right? Put some thumbs up or hearts if you too identify or have ever identified as a perfectionist, right? It's like, well, I only want to do it if it's going to be perfect. you know, and then, or even doing something and doing it pretty well, but doing it, you know, with a couple mistakes. It's like what usually happens in most humans' minds. We finish and it's like, I could have done that better, and that was horrible, and that. It's like, wait, pause, sweetheart. What about all the good stuff that happened, right? And if instead of expecting myself to be an A plus all the time, what I noticed about myself is that when I was insistent on being A plus, on being perfect, I didn't do a lot of things. Right? That very mindset, if I can't do it perfectly, I'm not even going to touch it, was incredibly limiting. Incredibly limiting. And it was through, again, some of these amazing trainings that I've been invited into through the Young Living community, where really brilliant, very successful, very influential people started offering this idea of, what if you threw perfectionism out the window? You know, I love Liz Gilbert in her incredible book, Big Magic. She talks about perfectionism is really just another, she calls it fear with a fancy red boa or something like that. That, like, you know, this idea of being perfect, if you trace it to its root, what's on the other side of I have to be perfect is that I'm afraid of being vulnerable. I'm afraid of being imperfect. I'm afraid of people seeing me not at my best. You know, and this misperception that I will only be accepted if I'm perfect all the time. And when I lived in that belief system of needing to be perfect or hiding, my community was small and my life was moving forward very slowly. So the idea of going for a B- is like, what if I did this and did it with all of my heart and allowed it to be imperfect, right? Because I'm going to learn more from my mistakes than I will learn from what I do well. Right? And if I can be okay with the fact that I might do this and it will come out not perfectly, then at the end I can maybe have a little more ground to sit back and go, okay, well, what about it went really well, and what would I do better the next time I do it? And from those failures, and I'm putting that in quote because is it really a failure or is it just less than A plus? But how are failures your biggest teachers? And how much have I missed out on learning because I was afraid to show up to it less than perfect? So I think that these two philosophies, these two teachings of, am I willing to be a B-, and also can I cultivate the courage to learn through the doing? Can I cultivate the courage to learn through the doing? So again, Young Living was such a powerful teacher for me because, you know, when I started using essential oils and saw like, oh my gosh, these are life-changing, of course I wanted people in my life to know about that. When I find tools that work, I share them. That's why I became a yoga teacher. Yoga was the embodiment of a miracle for me, and I wanted to offer that to as many people as I could. That's how I felt about Young Living too. But at the beginning, when I started using the oils, I was incredibly scared to share them because I couldn't be A+. I didn't know enough. I thought, well, how could I possibly teach this to other people? I'm a novice. Right? But one of the powerful teachings that have come through my own love affair with Young Living essential oils is realizing that when I started to share without even knowing, I started to learn. Right? Because just like Prescott College had taught me, well, when I start to offer something to others, it cultivates in me a desire to learn more. And because, you know, essential oils are so experiential, because there's such a felt sense, similar to yoga or meditation for me, there was that opportunity to learn together with others and watch like, oh my gosh, I know when I breathed peppermint, I too felt so energized and excited and clear-headed, and I guess that's not just me. You know, that what else does it do? Let's keep playing. And so that's my invitation to each of us, is that whatever your passion is, whatever you are hungry to learn more about, whatever message you've been sitting on because you wanted to revise it, and eventually present an A+ version, I invite you to jump into higher. It's not about having lower expectations. It's about having more comfortability with vulnerability. And I think that when we can be imperfect amongst each other, it fuels us to have more courage to go out there and do the best that we can. All right, I set that intention every time. I want to do better and better and better. And may where I am now be a primary teacher to where I'm going. So I hope that those little nuggets provide some value in your life today. May you enjoy the invitation of fostering communities of healing and discovery through the act of learning, through being on the journey not so overly focused on the destination, that I learn in every step that I'm taking. And what if this teaching, this moment, this opportunity is just as valuable as the one that you're going to cross when you get to that end point that you're reaching towards? Because I think we know when we get to the end point, the new goal presents itself. So blessings on the journey. May it be about the journey and about the community and the friendships and the opportunities and the learning that we glean and we cultivate and we live through in the doing. So blessings on the day.